Hello, I'm Amber, and this is a brief introduction to Chicago Manual Style and Chicago Style citations. If your professor has asked you to use CMS, Chicago, or Turabian style to format your paper, this is a good place to start. By scanning the QR code in the corner, you can visit our website where you will find resources such as a Chicago Style sheet that can be referenced as you write. Additionally, you can make an appointment with the OU Writing Center where our consultants can help you face-to-face or online. Here's the agenda for this presentation. First, we'll talk about the different methods of incorporating our sources into our work. What's the difference between quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing? Then we'll dive into the basics of Chicago style, how to format your paper, what a title page looks like, and some general requirements. Finally, we'll discuss Chicago's two citation styles, author date style and notes bibliography style, and end with the Writing Center's contact information. Let's begin. First off, why is it important to use a specific citation style? When using Chicago Manual Style for an assignment, you may feel like your professor is making you jump through hoops for no reason. However, Chicago Style and style guides like it have a practical use. They encourage the writer to use a uniform and consistent style which helps readers focus on the message the writer is conveying. It also helps them quickly scan text to find key ideas, results, and sources. Additionally, both academic and non-academic companies around the world use Chicago Style or their own in-house style for internal documents and publications. Practicing Chicago style now may help you in future professional environments. Finally, style guides have the added benefit of preventing plagiarism. As you will see, Chicago style asks the writer to accurately record information and identify their sources. Let's discuss different methods of using sources. You may know how to cite the source once you use it, but how do you want to incorporate that source? Do you want to quote, paraphrase, or summarize it? Each option does different work. I'll dive into these a bit now. Quotations are words and phrases pulled directly from the original text. Quotations should only be a narrow segment of the source and should match the source document word for word or clearly indicate a change to the original text using square brackets. Quotations must be attributed to the original author. You need to use page numbers when using a direct quote. This is different from paraphrasing and summarizing. I see students forget page numbers a lot when using direct quotes. If the original author said it so well it can't be restated, or something would be lost if you restated it, then go with the direct quote. Paraphrasing involves putting a passage from source material into your own words. A paraphrase must also be attributed to the original source. Paraphrased material is usually shorter than the original passage. It takes a somewhat broad segment of the source and condenses it. When you're paraphrasing, you restate someone else's ideas, but do not use their original words. Lots of students get into trouble when they think they're paraphrasing but keep original words or phrases from the original source. A summary is a more zoomed out view of the source. In a summary, you just give the main points of the source. If you think the details are important, it's better to paraphrase. Summarizing involves putting the main ideas into your own words, including only the main points. Once again, it is necessary to attribute summarized ideas to the original source. Summaries are significantly shorter than the original and take a broad overview of the source material. Now, let's move on to the main event. What are the basics of Chicago Manual Style? Chicago style papers are formatted much like any other academic paper. They should be double-spaced with 1-inch margins and use a widely available font like Times New Roman, almost always in size 12. Be sure to number your pages. Please note, you should always double-check your professor's specifications. Your professor might have different preferences or may require something else entirely. Their preference can usually be found on the syllabus, or in the assignment guidelines, or the rubric. If you are unsure, speak or email your professor directly. Finally, you will likely be asked to include a title page. We will go over this on the next slide. Please keep in mind that unless your professor specifies otherwise, title pages do not count towards an assignment's required page count. If you are already familiar with APA style, the Chicago style title pages may look familiar. The main title and subtitle are in bold, your name, the course title, and due date are below, and all of this information is centered and double-spaced. For more information, please visit the Writing Center's website and find our Chicago Style Guide. You may also look for other online resources, such as the Chicago Manual Styles website, and resources such as Purdue OWL. The Chicago Manual of Style offers two choices for citing, the author date system and the notes bibliography system. They both include citation information about your sources, but they present it in two different ways throughout your text and in the bibliography. Always check to see what your professor prefers. The author date system uses parenthetical citations, much like the citations you may already be familiar with. The notes bibliography system uses footnotes or endnotes to cite information. These two systems also differ when it comes to the end of your paper, which we will discuss in detail later. First, let's discuss author date style. The author date system uses the author's last name, year of publication, and cited page numbers in parentheses where the cited information appears in that text. The reference list entry contains full bibliographic data, including author's full name, year of publication, full title, place of publication, and publisher. Other information may be required depending on your professor's preferences, or the kind of source you're citing. I've included both a note and reference list entry. Please note, this example refers to a book. Chicago Manual of Style citations vary widely depending on the type of material that is being cited. This entry would look different if I were citing a journal or book chapter. This is an example of another book source. The author date system only includes the author's last name. After the author's last name is the year that your source was published. Please note, unlike APA style, there is no comma separating the year from the author. After the year published comes the pages cited. These page numbers only appear in the in-sec citation, not the reference entry. Reference list entries contain full bibliographic data. Again, please note that the example we are using is a book source. In a reference entry, the author's full name in last, first format comes first. Next comes the year that the book was published. Then comes the publication title, both title and subtitle. Please note that the title is in italics and followed by a period. When writing or revising your reference entries, make sure those details are formatted correctly to avoid confusion. Next comes the city the book was published in. This is required because most publishers have offices around the world. The Penguin Press office in New York is different from the office in London, Seattle, Sydney, or Cape Town. Even if you are accessing a digital edition of a book, this information is still important. The office where your book was published is likely listed in the front matter copyright information of your book. Finally, you will need to list the book's publisher. Make sure to write the publisher's name exactly as printed, as slight variations may refer to different companies or imprints. Here's an author date example of a journal article. It is very similar to a book reference entry with a few exceptions. First, the title of the article is in quotations, while the journal title is in italics. This is different from a book reference entry, which had the book title in italics. Additionally, the volume and issue numbers must be listed. As you can see, this journal article is from volume 11, issue 1 of the Journal of Human Capital and was published in the spring. There are two further considerations you should have when it comes to journal article citations, which we will explore now. When writing your in-text citation and your reference entry list, be careful when it comes to your page numbers. An in-text citation needs to specifically reference the information it is citing, while reference entries reference the entire page range of your article. Always, always, always include the DOI or a stable URL that links directly to the item you are referencing. In a pinch, you may reference the database's name rather than the DOI or a URL specifically. Here you can see the author date system in action. The student accurately cited a specific section of a book published in 2001 on page 124. The citation is then repeated at the bottom of the page with a different page number. Then the student cites what looks like a journal article with no page numbers a few lines later. Even without the reference list in front of us, we can gather a lot of information about our sources by simply scanning our student citations. When formatting your reference list, bold and center reference list at the top of your page. Present your references in alphabetical order based on author's last name or title if an author is not listed. Left, justify your references, then single space each entry with an extra line between each entry. And finally, use a hanging indent for each entry. If you are unsure how to format a hanging indent using your chosen word processor, reach out to a friend, professor, or a writing consultant for help. Now let's talk about the notes bibliography system. The notes bibliography system is very similar to the author date system, the difference being that the note system uses footnotes or endnotes instead of parentheses. Unlike the author date system, these notes have multiple formats depending on whether or not a source has been used before. The first time a source is cited in your paper, it is cited with a note that includes a source's full bibliographic information. However, after the first citation, a source's note will be a shortened entry. This example is a chapter from an edited collection. As you can see, the punctuation, order of information, and included information changes between a source's first instance and its subsequent entries. Additionally, the first use requires the page number that the quoted or cited material is on. The first use is a citation by itself, not a bibliography entry. Meanwhile, the bibliography entry includes a full range of pages referenced in the paper. It's important to remember that while a full note and bibliography entry look similar, they are not exactly the same. Punctuation changes, as does the page numbers, which you can see here. When using Chicago style, you may either use footnotes or endnotes to cite your sources. Footnotes are placed at the bottom of the page, while endnotes are placed at the end of the text. Footnotes are usually preferred because they are easier on your reader. Endnotes make your reader have to flip back and forth between your text and citations to find information. However, endnotes are better for longer, more substantive notes. Choose accordingly. You can also use the author date style for in-text citations alongside footnotes for substantive notes. Here's an example of some footnotes. You can see the first use of the source and then the shortened note afterwards. Here's what endnotes look like. The format of each entry stays the same, a full note followed by a shortened version, but endnotes come at the end of your text. Always clarify with your professor what their preference is. Unless you're writing your text on paper, you will likely be using a word processor to write your footnotes. To insert a note into Microsoft Word, visit the References panel and select the appropriate Insert Note button. To insert a footnote into Google Docs, visit the Insert menu and select Footnote. As of filming, endnotes cannot be inserted into the default version of Google Docs. Finally, you must have a bibliography in addition to your notes. As we discussed before, bibliography entries contain full bibliographic data. In Notes Bibliography style, center and bold the word bibliography. Your entries are always presented in alphabetical order, with a hanging indent and a single space between each entry. Make sure that you use a regular-sized font and that your work is left justified. For more information on the two systems, feel free to visit our website and view our Chicago Manual Style Citation Guide. Our easily searchable PDF contains templates for your notes and bibliography entries, which are helpful if you're new to Chicago style or want to see more examples. The guide also contains more in-depth information on formatting, especially on title pages, tables, and appendices, and your references section. To recap, there are two citation styles in Chicago Manual style. Author date style uses parenthetical in-text citations and a reference list, while the Notes Bibliography style uses footnotes or endnotes and a bibliography. Look for the use of superscript numbers to help distinguish one version from the other. Superscript numbers belong with footnotes or endnotes, meaning they will only appear in a document that is formatted with the Notes Bibliography section. Here are the sources for this presentation. If you have a question about Chicago Manual style, feel free to contact the Writing Center. Finally, here's how you can contact us if you have any questions or concerns. Feel free to take a picture of the slide for future reference. You can visit us in person or on our website. We also have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can give us a call and send an email. Please let us know if you have any questions. This is Amber from the OU Writing Center, signing off.